Anwar, are you able to hear me? I think you're muted at the moment.
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Okay, and you're here for item 6.1?
King Road.
Yes, okay. Perfect. We will start momentarily. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Agriculture Advisory Committee meeting of Thursday, May 8th, 2025. Could we have a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Matt, seconded by Brad, all in favor. Carried. An adoption of the minutes. Brad, seconded by Matt. And we're going to move back and forth here. All in favor. Just carried. First item up under reports, please.
Sure, yes, it's 4 items for the committee today. First is item 6.1. This is a boundary realignment in the ALR 27600 and 27888 King Road, and your manager Christine Batchelor will provide an introduction, and I believe the applicant is online.
Okay. So the city has received an application for a boundary realignment for lands within the ALR. The properties are currently 8.2 hectares and 15 hectares in size today. Staff is requesting input from the committee regarding this application. The properties are located at the corner of Lefevre and King Road along the border of Township of Langley. The properties hold an agricultural 1 land use designation as per the official community plan and are zoned agricultural 1. These properties currently accommodate a farm nursery operation with approximately 2.9 hectares of greenhouses, with the current property line that's running through the greenhouses. The larger of the 2 properties contain 2 single detached dwellings consisting of a principal dwelling and full-time farm worker residence. There is no existing dwellings located on the second property. The property owners have applied for an ALR boundary adjustment that, if approved, would result in 1 20.4 hectare lot and 1 2.9 hectare lot, with each lot containing 1 of the dwelling units. The city's approving officer could not conclude that the proposed realignment would see a net benefit to agriculture. Therefore, an ALC application was required. As detailed in the report, the property owners are here today online and have detailed their rationale for the proposed boundary adjustment. And they are here today to answer any questions that the committee may have. Any comments, concerns, or recommendations that the committee provides will be included in the staff report for council. And I can pass it over to the applicant if he wishes to speak to his application.
Ms. Kenmore, did you wish to speak to this?
Sure, yeah. I'll say a couple things. When we originally submitted this, we were proposing a smaller parcel, but immediately there were some concerns about, just kind of the house being separated and not being aligned with what the subdivision rules are and what the ALR would like to see. So we've expanded the area for that parcel that we're proposing. We're not proposing any additional lots. The primary reason for the subdivision is right now the lot line runs right through the greenhouses, and we just want to make sure that all the greenhouses are on one parcel. And if worst case scenario, you guys would like us to even make that parcel that we're proposing larger, we can do that as well. And also, with the lot lines as is, we're able to add a 3rd residence on the western lot, but with the subdivision we're proposing, we wouldn't be able to make any additional residences. It'd be a total of 2 on the 2 parcels, which are already existing as well. That's about it.
Does anyone on the committee have any questions for the applicant?
Why did you pick 2.92 or the size for the smaller parcel rather than bisecting? Well, I guess where's the second house? The air photo. Is it that
It's right on the it's on the corner, the northeast corner of the property.
Okay.
And we chose 2.92 just because that's kind of where there was a like a cut in the farmland. Not much rationale beyond that. We just felt like it was a good size and good split there. But we're open to other suggestions as well if you guys have any.
Any other comments or questions? Any motion? Matt?
Was there any consideration given to putting the second parcel on the edge instead of kind of in the middle of the larger one?
If we took it to the edge, then we again end up with two houses on one parcel. And we thought it'd probably be better to split up the two houses because if we include the two on one parcel, then we still have the ability to build like whoever wants the properties or buys the properties in the future or holds the properties down the road would have the ability to build 3 residences on the property. And we felt like the city of Abbotsford and the town and ALC probably would prefer if if we take away that ability to build a 3rd residence.
Anyone prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to support. Anytime you remove a property line from running right through a building, it's a net benefit to agriculture.
Okay, moved by Matt. Do we have a seconder?
I'll
Moved by Randy. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, motion's carried. Next
Awesome.
item.
Thank you guys.
Great, next item is item 6.2. This is a non-adhering residential use for property 245 Bradner Road. And Steve Batchel will provide an introduction and staff or the applicants in the room if they wish to speak.
So this is an application for a non-adhering residential use in the ALR to permit a principal residence that's greater than 500 square meters. Staff is requesting input from the AAC regarding this application, and any comments, concerns, or recommendations will be included in staff's report to council. The subject property is currently 9.8 acres in size and is currently designated agricultural 1 uplands as per the official community plan and is zoned agricultural 1. Zoning bylaw does not restrict the size of a principal residence. However, the ALC Act limits the principal residence to 500 square meters and 542 square meters with a garage. Staff note that the ALC Act was updated in 2019, placing size restrictions on principal residence, and therefore today the applicant is requiring non-adhering residential use approval from the ALC prior to obtaining the necessary building permits for their additions. The applicant has an existing principal residence that was constructed in 2018 that is currently 610 square meters in size, which includes 95 square meters for garages. The applicant is proposing approximately 269 square meters in additions. As detailed in the report, the applicant has provided the rationale for their proposed additions, and the city has received comments from the Ministry of Ag. Any comments, concerns, and recommendations, again, will be included in the upcoming council report. And Jatinder, the applicant, is here today to answer any questions or go over the rationale for the proposal made.
I'll speak.
You can just make sure that kind of in your comments into this.
Yeah.
That's where they'll hear you.
Sure. I want to thank staff and committee for considering our application today. We're a multi-generational farming family. My parents and grandparents farmed this land as laborers and then as owners for about 45 years since the 80s. I worked the farm full-time over summers growing up since the 3rd grade, and today we still farm about 30 acres of land in the immediate vicinity, primarily raspberries on 4 parcels. As a kid, I expected, dreamed of farming raspberries as my career path. Upon graduating university 15 years ago as a civil engineer, my goals changed. I moved to the city, worked for a large consulting firm, and designed some of the major infrastructure projects in the region. But as I got married, my wife and I decided we wanted to live under one roof with my parents as a multi-generational farming family and have our kids grow up around their grandparents, but also inherit the farm after us. Today, we remain a viable farm because my dad deals with the day-to-day farming operations, and then I help out after my day job in evenings and weekends. Our farm succession plan over the next decade is for me to retire as an engineer and then take the reins full-time for my dad as he's no longer able to run the farm full-time. And the only way I can continue to support the farm and execute on that succession plan is by living under the same roof, just based on where my job is and kids go to school. That's kind of the way it makes sense. If we're unable to get support for this application, my wife and kids, we would be forced to move. And I know, like, my parents, they don't have a desire to leave their farm, right? So we have 2 sides of the home. My wife and I and our 3 kids, we occupy one side of the house that has 2 bedrooms. And I said we have 3 kids. We're also planning for a 4th kid in the future. My parents are on the other side. They occupied 2 separate bedrooms, and the 3rd bedroom on that side was occupied by my brother. He passed away 2 years ago. But in general, our total need for bedrooms is at least 7, and we currently have only 5. And 8 years ago, I think we lacked the foresight of what our space needs would be, and this was prior to the current regulations coming into force. At the time, we always envisioned, hey, if we needed more space in the future, we could certainly apply for a building permit and likely receive an extension, because at the time there were many homes that were much, much larger. And I think some of you will recall, what led to the current regulations that limited home size. In the media, it was the focus was primarily on Richmond. Richmond News even reported many times at the time that there's dozens of mega mansions in Richmond. Some of them were up to 20,000 square feet with extensive landscaping, right? Many of them with little or no farming activity. Surrey had similar issues as well. Many of us South Asian farmers, we met with our legislators at the time, right? And they made it clear to us that the regs weren't meant to target legitimate farming families, many of whom were multi-generational, living under one roof, supporting the farm operation. Even recently, I was reading Country Life in BC, and in their January-February edition, they reminded me of that the regulations stemmed from steps the province took 8 years ago to address the revelation of hotels and private clubs on farmland in Richmond. So I've looked forward to have this opportunity to speak in front of you folks for well over a year. That's when we put in the application. But as time's gone on, I've kind of come to the sad realization that perhaps our approval or application won't be approved, and really it's going to force my wife and I to move, and my parents aren't going to have the heart to leave their Canadian dream, right? It's where they've lived their entire life. Our family grew up there. Myself, I'm a civil engineer. My wife is a lawyer. We would be forced to move closer to the city, likely Langley or Surrey or Burnaby, because that's where work is. That's where our kids are further west in terms of their schooling. In terms of the specifics of the application, you will notice that the home is situated on the southeast corner of the parcel. Our home is fairly close to the road, and the proposed extension will remain entirely within the backyard. Many farmhouses, even these days, complying with the current regulations, they're set quite far back, have long driveways and very large yards. A lot of times, I think many of you will have noticed that a lot of these farm parcels are kind of rendered sterile from a farming perspective, whereas with this application currently we farm 7.5 acres of crop on this parcel, and the remaining space is used for outbuildings that support the farming operation on our parcel here and the three nearby parcels. The nearby parcels, they all consist primarily of crop, and each one of them just have a small single residence. I want to note that the application was referred to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food because, to my surprise, in the city's ALC application guide in the council policy for agricultural areas and the zoning bylaw, none of these guiding documents mentioned a referral to the ministry. It's not to say that the ministry shouldn't have be able to provide their opinion on this, but given the city's own bylaws and policies exclude this referral, I don't think their input should influence the city's decision at this stage. I've worked as a municipal engineer for 7 years. My knowledge of the Local Government Act is that from that is that this feels kind of like jurisdictional overreaching. And I think it would be more appropriate. I wish I'll have the opportunity to address those comments directly to the ALC because I think that's the more appropriate avenue for those comments. And I'm certain that our application will allow us to demonstrate that for us continuing the multi-generational farming in our family, it satisfies that. I would call it a subjective criteria of directly benefiting agriculture. I found the ministry's input at this stage in their letter to be prejudicial to our application, mainly because I found some of their opinions were incorrect. So I want to address those here, and that's why I'm calling on this committee to set that letter aside in your evaluation today. They noted that there's adequate space on site by reallocating people between the units and that we did not provide the rationale for additional amenity space. I'd say this is incorrect. As I stated, we need at least 7 bedrooms, right? For a growing family, we only have 5. And my kids will need amenity space in the home. Currently, there's limited amenity space the way it's set up for them to play, study, or grow. And effectively, this application being rejected would end that 3 generations of multi-generational family farming. I think many of us here today would recognize that those families are an important pillar and directly beneficial to agriculture. We have the generational knowledge. The ministry and ALC noted this, I think, routinely in crafting the legislation in 2019. Right? But these days, it feels like that that input is being ignored. That's disappointing, I would say. So I'm hopeful that you guys will see this application a bit differently here today. I think for many South Asian family farmings, 500 square meters, it's somewhat arbitrary in that it ignores the makeup of our South Asian families. Oftentimes you have 3 generations living under one roof that are working on the farm, and 5 bedrooms and the amenity space we have is not enough for what we're trying to do and how we're trying to farm. Another point they noted was that the living space would increase the per acre value, making it less likely for an agricultural producer to purchase the parcel. I would disagree with that in that, like, many people here are farmers, and myself and my dad, we follow farm prices over the last several decades. I would say our farm is at the upper value. It's at its upper limit in value. We think the fair value right now is about $6 million. Whether we add a coach home or whether we add this extension, or even if we build a secondary suite, which is permitted under the zoning, or if we choose not to build an extension or coach home, those 2 additions that I mentioned would really only add about $100,000 to $200,000 of value to the farm. So, taking a $6 million farm to $6.2 million, it's not a cost prohibitive increase for any would-be buyer. And I think I would be happy to bring forward an appraisal to demonstrate this as well. So I found the ministry's letter. It shows kind of an unfair bias towards a would-be purchaser, where as opposed to the family that's farmed the parcel for 3 generations. It doesn't make sense to me. We have 45 years of farming knowledge here. It's pretty safe to say if we're approved here, we'll continue to farm this parcel in the future. If we were to sell this parcel, there's no guarantee a would-be buyer is going to farm this parcel. It wouldn't be economically viable even without this approval. And as we've seen over the last decade, many new owners treat a farm as an estate for living only with no farming. I've never seen a multi-generational farming family do this. So I'm asking you guys, you tell me which ownership group provides more certainty of agricultural benefit. I think it's us. I think the one statement that I want to highlight, which I do agree with in the ministry's letter, is that our proposal doesn't negatively impact agriculture on the parcel. In fact, a new owner could build a secondary suite such as a coach home on perhaps the half acre of blueberries that's at the front portion of the parcel, or they could set it further back, taking out additional raspberries. Our proposal doesn't do that. One suggestion I did make to staff on several occasions, and I want to highlight here, is that we can ensure that a future owner or even ourselves do not reduce farmland in this way by building a coach home. And that's by registering a restrictive covenant that prohibits the construction of a secondary suite. I'd be happy to bring that forward for sure. Like, I think our hope is that council will endorse option 1 to forward this to ALC with support. In the event that you folks here do not support it in this way, I would be happy also with your support on option 2 to approve this application with the amendment that I've suggested, or perhaps any other amendments that the AAC will suggest here today. I also want to note that we did it the right way. We didn't build an illegal extension. Many of us see this happening in this jurisdiction and other jurisdictions. I think at some point in the future, and talking to staff, you guys will be considering a similar application, but that was done under the context of a illegal extension. Today, I'm seeing some farmers circumventing these regulations by constructing these massive multi-story patios, and only to enclose them after occupancy, right? And that's where the city is then going to be left with this enforcement nightmare due to, I'll call it the ALC ban on homes larger than 500 square meters. I call it a ban because I haven't seen any of these applications be approved, even though the legislation effectively allows for it. In practice, it seems like they're all getting denied. Right? And so meanwhile, I think the city will end up having this enforcement issue, but we'll have foregone all of the building permit fees and the DCCs that you would otherwise have collected in the process. So I'm hoping you guys don't apply that sort of broad brush to applications such as this. I think the applications from legitimate farmers deserve to be heard and considered on their individual merits. We're not seeing hundreds of these applications. I think since this council policy was adopted, and I've checked all the meeting minutes, there's only been a handful of these applications per year. So I think setting a high bar and then assessing each application on its merits is really sufficient to preserve farmland and supporting the multi-generational farming families that are the backbone of this community. Not to mention the spin-off jobs that would create in the city. My high school teacher would often repeat that every job that is created on a farm, there's 4 spin-off jobs in the city. I think the ALC, that's not within their purview or their mandate, but for us to sell this farm to another owner and not having that guarantee of farming, them killing those farming jobs would effectively impact the economy of the city as well. So I hope you'll show us farmers that you care about us, and thank you for listening.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Sue, please go ahead.
Yeah, no question. I didn't think he left any room for any questions. He did such a thorough job. I just want to say that it's one of the best presentations I've heard over a long time. And he brings a lot of expertise to this particular type of application. And I think he makes a lot of legitimate points. For an extension, that's not going to in any way reduce the farming capability of this particular parcel and generally of other parcels that he's farming together with this. I think, and the benefit of keeping the family together. even though their people within the family are not directly involved in agriculture, just having that support there is valuable. And I can say that from experience. My brother is a doctor, and sometimes he lives close by and say, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And he does it. And every season, I get him to help me 3 weeks because he can manage 10 harvesters at the same time better than anybody else I can hire. So I just thank this gentleman's applicant. For a while there was a audio problem on my side. I missed his name, but he did a fantastic job in making this presentation. I'd be in favor of making a motion to support this application with support of this committee to the ALC.
Do we have a seconder?
I would support it with the covenant banning secondary residences in the future. I'm worried about the precedent of expanding, even within a footprint, expanding garages and then asking for another garage down the road. So that I feel that could be a slippery slope. But to put a restrictive covenant on there saying that won't apply for a secondary residence down the road. And we can basically lump that potential square footage into the existing home. I could be okay with that.
Just to add to that, Madam Chair, I know the applicant has proposed that and themselves to do that. I think that's just punitive. There's no necessity of doing that. When you consider their current operation is not going to impact it in any negative way. It's within their current area of the footprint of the house, so he's not extending into any farming area. And then to restrict that, I don't think it's necessary, even though the applicant has themselves have proposed that.
Okay, so you wouldn't consider that a friendly amendment then? So are you making that an amendment? Oh, we don't even have a second, so I can't post an amendment. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a seconder. Brad, did you want to make that an amendment to the motion? Or what did I say?
He's seconding my motion, isn't he?
Probably said that.
Maybe over to.
I'm seconding your motion, Sue.
Maybe over to the clerk's office for clarity. I think we have a motion on the table, not you now have the ability to propose amendments to the motion. Vote on the motion first.
We need the amendment.
Just 1 second. I'm just getting Archie to weigh in on this one. Archie, can you hear us?
Hi, Tammy. Yes, I'm able to hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, so we can take that motion as amended and we can vote on the amendment first. If that is to carry, then the main motion would be out of order. So if you can please take the vote on the amendment.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we don't have a seconder for the amendment yet, so we have a,
I'll second the amendment.
okay. So any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of the amendment? All right, and then that's carried. All right, so then I'll call the question on the full motion. Maybe I'll just, any more discussion on the amended motions? No, okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Sorry, so Sue, were you opposed to the amended motion?
No, I mean,
Okay.
that's on on the table. I thought my motion would be seconded first, but I don't know the rule of order here.
1 second, sorry, Sue, maybe you couldn't tell, probably should have mentioned that, but it was seconded by Brad.
Okay, so then so we didn't pass the amended motion, or did we pass
We passed the
the
amendment.
original motion?
Yeah, the original motion was moved by you, seconded by Brad, but then before you vote on that, if there's amendment proposed, you have to vote on the amendment first. And that was
Okay.
passed. And so then we just voted on the newly amended motion, okay?
Yeah, and then there's no point me opposing that, so it's fine.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Great. Next item, please.
Okay, next is item 6.3. This is non-farm use and subdivision application for 28709 Downs Road. Again, Christine Batchelor will provide an introduction, and the applicant is here.
So this is an application for a non-farm use and a subdivision of property within the ALR. Staff is requesting input from the committee regarding this application, and any comments, concerns, or recommendations will be included in staff's report to council. The subject property is approximately 1 hectare and is designated agricultural 1 uplands and agricultural 1. The property is located at the corner of Downs and Bradner with Highway 1 to the north. The applicant is proposing to construct a new facility for natural gas distribution to serve residents, farms, and industrial users in the area. The use is permitted per the zoning bylaw as defined as a public service, which is an essential servicing for the city with water, sewer, electricity, natural gas, etc. However, the use does require a non-farm use approval from the ALC. The applicant is further proposing to subdivide a 0.1 hectare portion of property through a statutory right-of-way in fee simple pursuant to section 114 of the Land Title Act. This type of subdivision does not require approval from the city. However, it does require approval from the ALC. As detailed in the report, the applicant has provided the rationale for the proposed use and subdivision, and comments have been received from the ministry. Any comments, concerns, and recommendations, again, will be included in the upcoming council report. And we have Stacy and Luciana here from Fortis that can come up and explain a little bit in more detail on their proposal and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
And this is my little stick. Perfect. So I'm Stacy from Fortis, BC. I'm the senior project manager for the Lower Mainland. Luciana is the project manager on this project. We also have Kevin. He's our energy solutions manager. And thankfully Pam from Vitalis came as well. Next slide. So just a summary of our application. So we submitted our application to the ALC about a year ago to do a subdivision and a non-farm use application. We are asking for permission to use this bottom kind of triangle corner of this parcel to build a distribution pressure station. We would be purchasing the property underneath section 114 of the Land Title Act. And the parent size of that property is 1.16 hectares. And the little triangle in that bottom right corner is not being used for agriculture use except for the occasional roaming of horses. Why did we pick this proposed site? So our system capacity planning group came to us when a new industrial customer asked for additional gas load in the area. So we looked for a site that we could build a station on. In the process of looking at the various sites, we selected this property just because the favorable topography of it, there's minimal environmental impact. Some of the other sites had streams or very steep hills. The access to the site is quite convenient. It's right off of that Downs and Bradner street. And we received positive feedback from the landowner. We are proposing our station footprint to actually be smaller than that triangle on the other slide. We are leaving the trees in between the highway and our station fencing. So although we are asking for that triangle shape, our station impact would be that picture in the oval there. So as mentioned, our system capacity group, they did the analysis when our new industrial customer asked for the additional gas load. This station would serve approximately 24,000 customers in the area, including 400 existing agriculture businesses. so the greenhouses and farms in the area. The reason why we need to build the station is the capacity in Abbotsford has just decreased from the development in Abbotsford. And we are just running out of gas in that area. So we need to bolster our system to have that gas load. The main primary customer was Vitalis. So as you guys know, Vitalis, and Pam is here to speak with any questions about Vitalis. They are critical for the dairy farming industry in Western Canada. And they had a development application approved in June 2023. One of their pieces of equipment requires a large gas load, and enable for that piece of equipment to come online. We would have to have this station built by summer 2026. So the non-farm use approval is essential for meeting the growing demand in the area. And that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions? Let's see our folks. Anyone else from the?
Yeah, did anyone have any questions about the energy solutions in the area or for Vitalis?
I'd be willing to make a motion to support. I mean, I know natural gas is vital in many agricultural entities, Vitalis, as well as greenhouses, poultry. So I would support that for that reason.
You said 400 specifically agricultural customers aside from the residential?
Right, yeah.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded by Brad. Any other comments or questions? No, all in favor of the motion? Motion's carried.
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys.
Okay, next item, please.
All right, the last item on today's agenda is item 6.4. This is regarding a city-led ALR exclusion application for a portion of 34252 King Road, as well as an inclusion application for property at 2146 and 1010 Lepeaver Road. With me today is staff from various departments to assist with questions, as well as our team of consultants, Pacific Land Group. We have Blake Bankoff and Laura Jones, as well as from McTavish is Justin McTavish, who undertook ag capability assessments. So today is about introducing these applications to the committee and ultimately seek advice from the committee for council's consideration of these applications. So starting with the end goal in mind, why is the city pursuing these ALC applications? And the vision here is to construct a large format sports and recreation park with multiple fields requiring 40 to 50 acres. And this is envisioned to be built at 34252 King Road. And this vision really goes back to 2016 with the creation of the official community plan, where we were planning for a city of 200 people. And at the time, our growth was growing outward up to the urban development boundary. And so we had to rethink how the city was going to grow. And the result of that plan is an urban structure that you see here, which we call a city of centers, and growing inward and upward versus growing outward. And through that 2-year planning process, providing additional park and recreational space as the city grows to 200,000 emerged as a priority. And recognizing the potential land need and the additional studies needed to understand that initiative, 2 special study areas were highlighted in the OCP for further study. Following adoption of the OCP, the city undertook updates to a number of master plans and strategies, one of which was the Parks and Recreation and Culture Master Plan. And through that planning exercise, the concept of a multi-field sports park emerged as a medium-term priority, so 2024 to 2028, for land acquisition, and that was reflected in special study areas C and D as potential locations, as you see there in the pink triangles. So special study areas C and D specifically are the areas surrounding UFB for area C, and the lands adjacent to Delaire Park, which is area D. Both were earmarked for potential sites for that large format active park space, as well as value add ag-related uses such as research and development. So while we have good policy direction for the park through the OCP and the master plan, securing a location for it is a challenge. And Abbotsford is the largest municipality by area in BC, but 72% of the land base is located within the ALR. 1010 Lefevre Road is a city-owned parcel and could be a potential location for the park, given its size, it's roughly 40 acres, and that it's not located in the ALR. However, given that it's distant from the urban area, roughly 7 kilometers, and the site is surrounded by ag land, it really isn't an ideal location for the park and would create a patchwork of land use in southwest Abbotsford. In a perfect world, the park would be located within the urban area, close and accessible to residents and close to transit servicing. However, the urban area is mostly built out and subdivided into smaller parcels and making it infeasible to assemble sufficient land for the park. The key neighborhood is within the urban development boundary and largely undeveloped at this stage. However, this area is on the mountainside and consists of steep terrain and significant environmental features that make it extremely challenging to build a large format park envisioned. Looking at areas outside the urban development boundary and not in the ALR are Sumas Mountain and Vetter Mountain, and similar reasons to McKee. These areas have steep terrain and environmental constraints that aren't conducive to the large format park envisioned. And lastly, special study areas C and D. Both sites were identified through the OCP and the Parks and Recreation Culture Master Plan due to the proximity to the urban area, the minimal edge conditions, access to transit, and in the case of Special Study Area C, proximity to UFE. So more recently, the city was able to secure the northern 46 acres of 34252 King Road, which is located in Special Study Area C, leaving us with 2 potential sites for the park, King Road or Lefevre Road. With all the factors considered, 34252 King Road is our preferred location for this park. So with that, the city recognizes that King Road is located in the ALR and will require ALC approval. At the forefront of the proposal is ensuring alignment with the city's policy direction in the OCP regarding agriculture and the ALC's mandate outlined in the ALC Act to give priority to protecting and enhancing the size, integrity, and continuity of the land base of the ALR. So with that in mind, the city is proposing 2 applications: an exclusion application for 46 acres at King Road, as well as an inclusion application of 49 acres at 2146 and 1010 Lefevre Road. So looking first at the exclusion lands, 34252 King Road is the northern portion of the site. It consists of 46 acres at the southeast corner of King Road and Mackenzie Road. The province has secured the southern 40 acres of this site and is proposing a subdivision and a non-farm use for the proposed BC Plant and Animal Health Center. This site here really checks a lot of boxes for the city with respect to the park. First of all, the size, the 46 acres, fits the 40 to 50 acre size we've been looking for. It's in the U District neighborhood, adjacent to the urban area, close to transit, and close to University of the Fraser Valley. And from an agricultural interface perspective, the site only has a southern boundary abutting ag land, and that is the BC Plant and Animal Health Center site. And we believe that the BC Plant and Animal Health Center creates a land use transition from park to the north to more conventional land or ag land to the south. But notwithstanding this, the city is proposing a 10-meter wide landscape buffer to further protect the farmland to the south from the park. As part of our analysis, we engaged McTavish to undertake an agricultural capability assessment to ensure we're comparing apples to apples with properties proposed to be included with those proposed to be excluded from the ALR. And when we look at the King Road soil classifications, There's unimproved soil classifications of 4 and 5. And those have the ability to be improved to soil class 2 and 3. And we have one sliver, the orange polygon, which is a soil class of 6, and that's primarily because it's the forested area near the escarpment. So the site is currently used for growing pumpkins and has one home in the northeast corner of the site. Moving to the inclusion applications, these two sites on Lefevre Road are located in southwest Abbotsford. The two proposed properties are 2146 and 1010 Lefevre Road and are currently owned by the city, and they're shown in red here. The combined area of the two parcels is 49 acres. The northern property is 10 acres. And the south property is, 49 acres. The city also owns 1274 Lefevre Road, which is the blue box immediately north of 1010 Lefevre. And we are proposing to consolidate it with 1010 Lefevre Road, creating one 60-acre parcel. And this consolidation creates a large lot, which is typically more desirable from a farming capability perspective versus small lots, and creates a larger parcel in the ALR than what's proposed to be removed from the ALR. And as for location, as mentioned earlier, the Lefevre properties are distant from the urban area and are surrounded by ag land, making them more suitable for agricultural uses than they are for a park use. Similar to the King Road property, McTavish did do an ag capability assessment for these properties, and starting with 2146, that's the northern 10-acre parcel, unimproved soil classifications of 3 and 5, and have the ability to be improved to 3. The lands were previously leased for hay production and is currently fallow, as the property is currently not under a lease agreement. The purple area is class 7, and those are 2 fabric structures that the city owns and operates and uses for salt and sand storage to service the rural community during the winter conditions. 1010 Lefevre Road is the larger parcel, 40-acre parcel to the south. Unimproved soil classifications of 3 and 4 have the ability to be improved to 2 and 3. Currently, this is being leased to a beef farmer who operates his farm across the street and is using this for hay production. There are no buildings on this property. Now, the property immediately north of 1010 Lefevre is 1274, 20 acres currently in the ALR. But it was also assessed unimproved soil classifications of 3 and can be improved to 2 and 3. And this property is owned by the city and is leased to the same beef farmer for hay production. There's no buildings on this property as well. So looking at the ag capability collectively, the improved soil class at Lefevre and King are comparable, class 2 and 3. So in other words, lands proposed to be put into the ALR are generally equal to those proposed to come out of the ALR. So in closing and looking at the proposal in its entirety, more land is proposed to go in the ALR that come out of the ALR with a net gain of 3 acres. The parcel sizes going in are larger. The improved soil classes are comparable, and the Lefevre lands are much more suitable for agricultural uses due to their location, edge conditions, and land use compatibility. So taking all these factors into consideration, it's our opinion that the proposal protects and enhances the size, integrity, and continuity of the ALR and results in a net benefit to agriculture. So at this time, we're looking for a recommendation from the committee for council's consideration. The options are on the slide for their consideration. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
What are the inclusion properties? What are your plans for them after they're included?
Right now, through the chair, the 1010 Lefevre and the one immediately north of it, 1274 Lefevre, are leased to the beef farmer. The intent would be likely to sell the properties. That property owners so far has shown interest in potentially acquiring the sites. However, that would be something that we look at. It would be listed and sold in the market.
Now you're not looking, you've gone a different direction than area D, But is Area D in the ALR or out of the ALR?
Yeah, so Area D is the land, just a reminder for everybody, the land around Delaire Park on Delaire Road. There is a small section of land there, and the reason that area was identified originally is it's an island of ALR with the highway bisecting or containing that small portion that's in the ALR. So the city has not pursued that area for a few reasons. One, soil classes are higher, so it's not comparable. Two, it's a much larger area. It's about 105 acres entirely. The current Delaire Park is about 15 acres, so that means 90 acres would be proposed to be excluded. We simply don't have 90 to offset that. So we felt moving in the direction of King Road was a more suitable proposal to meet the ALC mandate and the OCP policy directions.
Anyone else?
I would also add that Delaire Road piece is much more subject to flooding than King Road.
Correct.
So any sort of infrastructure, ice rink, swimming pools, or outbuildings pose a significant challenge for that as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even notice you were there. I'm sorry.
But not a problem. I just, I think the other thing to note on the Delaire property is there's no indication that that individual wants to sell the property. It's being actively farmed. So that's the other challenge that we have. But I think there's also some environmental concerns, stream sides and things like that, that don't pose the same challenges here.
Yeah, sure. That's a great point to elaborate on that. The special study area C primarily, not entirely, but primarily is owned by a dairy farmer. Use that for corn and hay production as well. It's not leased, it's actually owned by the dairy operator. And there is a meandering stream through the site, which would dramatically impact the efficiency of laying out a park on that site.
I just want to say it's a very well thought out presentation. Thank you for that. I think the challenge has always been like we're all in favor of preserving agricultural land, but there's also community needs, and it can be pretty challenging to find space for community projects that would support the community in general. And I think the proposal at hand that's been presented, addresses those concerns as well as the need to preserve agricultural land. I think, this trade-off is probably, in favor of agriculture, given the location and the class of soils, all those things considered. So I would, if we're at that point, I would like to propose to support this proposal to the LC.
Great. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Hi, Brad. Any further comments?
I would echo what Sue was saying, that to find 40 or 50 acres to build a park of this size, this quality, within the city limits of Abbotsford is nigh on to impossible. Logistically, but also financially would be incredibly burdensome to the city. So I think for that reason, I think this is an ideal location.
And if I may as well, Chair, I think the fact that the location as it stands, as close as it is to the university, is incredibly advantageous to that facility as well.
Great. Seeing no other comments, we'll call the question. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Great. Thank you. Great. The next item is simply adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Brad, second by Mel, all in favor? Motion carried. Thank you for your participation, everyone.